I ain't starting over. Okay, awesome. So basically, the best way to start is actually just starting. There's no way I can teach you how to use Lightroom today if you don't know how. It's just not practical. There's so much to it. A lot of it is learning by trial and error. I can show you my process, and that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on some of the technical things of what I do to the photo. And when I'm editing these photos that we're going to be looking at later, art is subjective. So how I edit a photo might not be the same way as someone else would edit the photo. It's all in the artist's interpretation of what they really want to do with that photo. And so there's many ways you can get there. So let's start off by creating a catalog. I'm going to hit New Catalog. And I'm going to go focal point, CC, Lightroom, presentation. And I'm going to put that in, save as. I think that's where I want it anyhow. Okay, so I just created a new catalog. I guess Zoom does slow down your computer. Okay, and we're going to import some photos.
Yeah, there will be a little latency, so don't rush yourself going through it.
Okay. Now, when you hit import, the first thing it's going to do is ask for a source. I put these photos on my. Oh, that's weird. One of my hard drives didn't make it. Oh, I know why, because I shut down earlier. Okay, never mind. Anyhow, I put it on my SSD drive, my external, that helps keep it sped up in that. And I'm going to pick the group 1 photos. These are the photos I selected to import. And right now they're all checked. And one of the things that Lightroom is good about doing is if you have this over here checked in this corner, don't import suspected duplicates. You're not going to get a whole bunch of extras. There's a lot of times you want to remove them off your disk, and it will just keep adding them in and that, and then all of a sudden you have 2-3 photos of the same shot, and that's what it used to be in the old days. And trust me, it took me a long time to clean up over 100,000 photos, and got it down to like 80. And the 80 were I still have duplicates in that group.
80 photos?
80,000. 80,000. My working directory, the one I was just in, I think it's like 16,000 for the last year and a half. Actually, the last 2 years. So that tells you how far I'm behind, because I use my working directory for any photos that is still in active status. Then I move them to my final Lightroom. And well, yeah, I'm a little bit behind. So anyhow, I'm going to import all these photos. Right, imports right here in the lower right-hand corner. And I think I forgot to change something here. Let's see. Okay, it's in there, so that's cool. They're all in Lightroom here. And what came up here, this is still in the library module. And on the library module, you have several sections here. You have your quick develop, keywording. Like if I wanted to add keywording to this, I could actually have done it on the import. And I'll get to that later on. And keyword list is a way how to to sort for a keyword. And this is the metadata. So this photo here was taken August 24th, 19. And it's telling you what the focal length. I mean, so there's a lot of good information here. If you want to find out, hey, did I use a flash? It's going to say, nope, I did not on here. And I did not have any exposure bias. It tells me how long it was, at what f-stop. So there's a lot of good information in this metadata. Also in here, I automatically have it put in my, excuse me, I'll find it right here, copyright information. So you can actually have that automatically bring it in. right from the camera if you have it set up in your camera. If you don't have it set up in your camera, you can actually set up Lightroom to automatically put it in that metadata for you. So if I get a batch of photos in, first thing I start doing is I'll double click on it and open them up. And I'll look at the photos. Okay, this one here, you know what? I think this one still has hope. I purposely picked it because I know it does. This one here is, no, that one's good. So I'm going to give that one also a 1. And this one here, I happen to be taking pictures of this nice little crick, and my wife sat down and she was out of the picture when she first sat down. Then also she spread out her leg while she was waiting for her cousin and I to finish our photos. I go, oh geez, she just ruined my photo. And I go, I kind of like that. But so I took a couple more. Then I realized that her leg was out of focus. So I'm actually going to delete this photo. I'm not going to delete it right away. I'm going to mark it for deletion by hitting X. X in the library mode or even in develop mode will set a photo flagged for deletion. And if you look down here in the lower corner, you'll see the flag that's marked for deletion. I'm going to just do that with the other ones here. This one here, her hand is moving, so it's a little blurry, and I know I got another good one here, so I'm going to delete this one too. And this is the one I think I'm going to work on. And actually, oh, I'm back too far. The next one, this last one, is actually a little bit better. So I'm going to put that one to 1. I'm going to go back to the other photo, and I'm going to mark that for deletion. I'm going to hit G. Now, I know I'm going real fast, guys. I apologize. I'm nervous. And we're starting a little bit behind. I'm going to hit G for grid. That's how I remember, G for grid. And that's going to give me my gallery. You know what? These are probably real small for you guys. I got a nice size monitor here, so I can see what I'm doing. And you can see that the photos that are flagged are going to have the X's in the upper right-hand or upper left-hand corner. And to clear up the space here, I'm going to get rid of those photos. To get rid of the photos that you have flagged for deletion, there's multiple ways of doing it. You can come up to photo. You can hit right here, delete rejected photos. You can do it from there. Or if you look right here, now mine's a Mac, so just make it a little bit different than you guys. Basically what this is telling me is command delete. I believe on PC it is control delete. I don't know if any PC users confirm that or not. So I'm going to hit command delete. And it's going to ask me, do I want to delete it or just remove it? Removing it will take it out of the catalog. Deleting it actually physically removes it from the disk. So if you don't want to clutter up your hard drive, you hit delete from disk. So now they're gone. Right, these are
See that it just takes it out of the catalog. Where does it go?
stays put right where it was at. So
It was in your
very
catalog.
hard to find. Pardon?
Was it not in your catalog? I mean, you brought these in. I mean,
the way how Lightroom works is you have a standalone file for the catalog. And inside that catalog is all your edits for the photos that's within that catalog. Lightroom is a non-destructive editing software.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's also your only copy of these pictures when you bring them in.
Well, it's still on your disk. Unless if you reformat your disk right away.
Okay.
But the thing is, those copies, I flag for deletion anyhow. Well, I set this up in a different file. I'm not actually physically deleting it.
No, I get it. All right. I just didn't know if you already had another. You know, everybody's workflow is a little different like that. So when you're saying, all right, just delete some, then they're gone, and you have 0 other copies of it, then.
Typically, when I delete it from there, yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. I look at it this way. I don't plan on using them. If I have a better photo, why let it clutter up storage space? I have a Mac. It only holds 256 gig, um, and that's not a lot. And so that's why I have to have external hard drives and um, be careful of not filling up my hard drive and that.
Steve,
So
Steve, you
yeah,
might want to clarify that when you import your photos, if you go back to that import screen, you'll see on the top where it says copy, or it'll give you the option to move. So if you just copy them, they're going to be on your original source or your original flash card or wherever you imported them from. But if you move them, then it will empty your card or empty your external drive or wherever you imported them from. So then you only have the one copy that Marty's talking about in your catalog. So,
that is correct. The reason why I didn't offer that to me, and I just clicked on import again here. The reason why I didn't offer that to me is because it's already native to the computer system, to the network.
okay, yeah.
If I actually had a disk and I put the disk in, it's going to ask me, what do I want to do with these photos when I'm done importing them in? I just leave them on the disk. If I want to reuse that disk or something else and it's full, then I'm going to reformat it. Otherwise, I leave it on my disk until I get pretty close to filling up. I don't actually ever fill it up all the way.
Steve?
Yeah.
If by chance you get rid of your photo and don't have a backup, do you have access to Time Machine?
Yes, I do have Time Machine. I back up to two different sources. This is a little off topic here. I back up to a external hard drive, which that's what I noticed wasn't connected because I have it passcoded. And then I have that backed up to a cloud service.
Thank you.
So that in case if something ever happens. But when I delete it off this quick, it might not even make it that far. It's always going to be in trash bin too. Oh, maybe not now because I'm still in it. But oh, no,
Steve, it looks like Stu has a question.
okay. Give me a moment here. Go ahead, Stu. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Can't hear you, Stu.
Stu, you want to put it in the chat? Just type in the chat what you want. Too long?
Well, Stu, if you want, can ask me later on in that, then we can figure it out. That goes true with anybody else. I'm no expert by any means on Lightroom. I've been using it for several years and it's been serving me quite well. So if anybody ever wants to contact me and say, hey, I'm having a problem and all that, what we can do is we can set up a Zoom chat. It can be 2 on 2. We got the account, might as well use it. And set up a Zoom chat and I can offer my assistance however I can. Okay. So basically, if I did have a chip and I imported this in, it's going to actually automatically eject the card for me. And I think there's also an option for that. I turned that on so it's a little easier. And having that set up so it doesn't import suspected duplicates has, like I said, saved me a lot of time. Now, the thing to watch is, say if you deleted something, you put that chip back in, you got to be careful of, and you already uploaded from that chip and you added more photos, you got to be careful because you may load in all the photos you just deleted from your previous session. So you got to watch what you're doing. Oh, Don Johnson wants to come in. Right. So you got to watch what you're doing when you're importing in from a disk that's been used, already imported into Lightroom. So let's cancel out of this. And I am gonna, let's edit the first photo here. This is a good one here. Now to go to develop, I can do it a couple ways. I can click up here, or if I hit D, it's a shortcut. And that just brings me into, well, here we go. And one of the first things I'll do, I'm gonna go up to basic here. I had something checked in the beginning when I imported this in, and I forgot to uncheck it. There are some settings here, as you'll see it down here, that's already done. It's because, and also my medium contrast, I'm gonna go back to. So I'm gonna actually reset this photo, and we're starting all over. I'll get back to those presets in a bit. And that's actually a nice, helpful tool. If you're finding that you're doing the same thing over and over and over on every photo or very close to it, you can actually set it up so that a preset is applied to your photos as you import them in. But I wanted to show you this way first. Okay, let's go to basic. First thing I want to do is, this is a little different because usually I tackle exposure first. I kind of go down the line here. I skip contrast. I kind of go down the line. And one of the ones that I really want to focus on is going to be the whites and the blacks, setting the white point and the black point. On this one here, I exposed for the highlights, exposed for the right, made sure I didn't blow out. Actually, if you up to the histogram here in the upper right hand corner, you'll see just where the sun is at. I did blow out a little bit and a little bit of reflection on the water. That's not bad. I'm not worried about that. This photo's not ruined by any means. But so what that means though is I couldn't expose it any higher without actually blowing it out really bad. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my shadows up, see what I got. And what I'm doing here, I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm grabbing this button here, this toggle button, and I'm going to just slide it all the way up to the right to sliding it up. And you can see already this photo is a lot better.
Steve,
yeah.
Is it possible to put all the people's pictures on the bottom because the images are covering up what you're working on, so we can't see what you're doing?
Sylvia, in the upper right corner of your screen, there's your gallery view and your speaker view. You see those buttons?
Oh.
Hover your mouse in the upper right corner.
Okay, I've got show grid view video and show thumbnail.
Yep. If you go to speaker view, it'll show just one thumbnail.
Oh, okay.
And then the other thing you can do is if you hover your mouse between that picture and what Steve has up in the screen share, you'll see a little bar come up, and you can actually slide that bar to make things bigger or smaller on your screen.
Okay, I'm not following that. I don't see where I do that.
So right now, the one picture is you because you're talking, or me because I'm talking maybe. And then if you hover right to the left side of that picture, that one that's right in the middle of the right side of the screen.
Okay.
You see a little bar that comes up when you hover right there?
No.
Okay. Well, did going to that view, did that help you?
Oh, I see you and nobody else, and that helps a lot.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. So basically, I'm going to just bring up the shadows, see what I have on this photo. And a lot of times when I do this, when I have something that's got a very high dynamic range, in other words, lots of brights, lots of shadows, I'm going to increase the shadows up 100%, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing here again. I'm grabbing this little button here. I'm going to drop the highlights down. In this case here, I'm going to drop it all the way down. You know, this is nice. It's better, but it's not what I really visioned when I took this photo. But before I go too much further, I want to set my white point and my black point. And what I mean by that is when you set a white point and a black point, you're setting the, you're changing the histogram here. So it's spread out more throughout the whole range. And what that does, it utilizes more of the dynamic range of what you can for the photo without blowing out. I'm trying to do it without blowing out the highlights and without blowing out the shadows. And what I mean by blowing out the shadows and highlights, it's you're losing detail. And I got a good photo for that later on, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So setting the white point on the whites, there's many ways you can do this. You can just take the button and you can slide it up and down. And if you watch your histogram up here, you'll see this little triangle. You can actually hover over that triangle. It tells you where you're blowing out the highlights. You can watch that triangle. When that turns lightish rather than the darker gray, when that turns light gray, that means you're blowing out the highlights. That's one way of doing it. Oh, we lost Travis for a while. Got him, Marty? Right. So another way of doing this is actually going, this is confusing. You're gonna hit Option, and you're gonna grab this button, and you hold down this button with the mouse key, the left mouse button. And you'll see exactly what you're blowing out. And you can just move this down until you're blowing out none of the whites. And that's pretty darn good right there. We'll leave it right there. Plus 12. That's method number 2. This is a little bit more scientific because you can see exactly what you're blowing out and not blowing out. And sometimes you can't help but to blow it out, like reflections off of metal, or if you've got the sun itself up there, that's going to be very tough not to be able to control that. So sometimes you got to live with the blowouts. The third way of setting this point is if you go to the whites here, and I'm going to show you what this is going to do first of all. I'm going to sidetrack here. You double click whites, it's going to reset it. But remember that I set it at 12? I double click on the whites, it reset that value. Now, if I hit Shift and double click, or click, excuse me, single click on whites, what it'll do is I'll let the computer decide. Maybe it is a double click. It is a double click. And look at that. It actually picked the same value. That's usually comes real close. It's usually not the same value. But that is the quicker way of doing it. And I'm going to do that method for the blacks. I'm going to hit Shift and double click on blacks. And now I set my black point. And if you notice up here what it did, it kind of spread out the curve. So that it's a little bit more across the whole spectrum of the histogram. It does show that I am blowing out some blacks. I did notice that when you double click on blacks, it likes to blow out some. That's not so bad. That's a hole in there. That's good. I can live with that. If you see the blue in the lower left-hand corner, that is what's actually being blown out. Oh yeah, this photo's not done yet. It's missing still a good dynamic range. I like looking for contrast. I'm actually going to take, at this point, I'm actually going to jump to what's called the tone curve. The tone curve is a curve of your contrast. And you can pull a point down here and tweak it that way, or you can use some preset curves. And usually I just use the preset curves. And when you hit custom here, I'm going to highlight that. You hit custom here. Well, it says custom because I play with the dot. I'm going to hit that, and you have your choice of linear, medium, or strong. And what I usually do is I click on medium. Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, let's see what the strong looks like. And, strong. Well, that's more like what I was kind of envisioning, so I'm going to keep it as strong. And if I want to, I can come back later and play with this. Anything you can come back to and play with. It's not, you can change any of these settings. So I'm sorry, what I did is I went from tone curve back up to basic. And the other thing that I notice is I still don't have quite what I want For one, the color balance is way off. I already know that this was taken first thing in the morning. It should be a lot more orange, a lot more brilliant. So I'm going to change my white balance here. The white balance is right here. You got an eyedropper that if you found something gray, white, or black, not too black or not too white, preferably something gray. And I can tell you right now, these rocks probably is not going to give you the same, to give you the right color. So let's just pick something on the rocks. And I try not to get it in the sun reflection because that's going to skew it. Here's a nice shadow spot. It's probably going to throw it off raw. Actually, that ain't bad. Maybe it was great. That's pretty good. I do know it was warmer than that. So you can come up here. You can also try some of the presets. You can try cloudy. That's ugly. If you hit something and you don't like it, what you can do is Control Z, or on a Mac, Command Z, and that's undo. And I'm just going to warm it up this way by grabbing the temperature of the photo, and I'm going to bring it to the right and warm it up that way. Okay, that's a lot better. Now, this horizon is bugging the hell out of me. I don't know if anybody else feels like it's going to fall off. So let's fix that now. Up here is a crop tool. And the crop tool, you can fix your horizon. And there's several ways. I'm going to click on crop tool. There's several ways you can fix this. You can come outside of the photo line here, highlight where I'm at, right there, outside the photo line, anywhere outside that border. And you get it so that, you get it so that there's two double arrows. I don't know if you guys can see that. And you can grab it and you can rotate it. And it gives you a grid, and that helps align things up. That's better. Or there's another way of doing it. You can manually adjust it here. Or the easiest way is to hit this level tool right here. You hit this level tool, click on that, and you come to your horizon. Now you got to hold the mouse key down when you click. Hold the left mouse key down after clicking and drag it across and line it up that way and just release. Now it's perfectly level. That's better than eyeballing. And I'm going to set that by just hitting enter. If you notice, when I set some of my contrast out, it started to blow out more. I'm not worried about that. That's not much. Sometimes the one change that you do will affect another. To me, I still want to lower my highlights in this upper area. But you notice my highlights has been exhausted. There's ways of doing this. And what I'm going to introduce to you right now is, actually, before I jump to that, I'll cover something else. I'm sorry. I'm not used to doing this because this is usually this area here that's called presence. This is part of the stuff that I set up in my presets. I'm going to take my clarity. Clarity is basically adjust your contrast within the photo, and that you can either make it a little bit more obscure or defined. And it's very hard to explain, and if someone's got a better definition, go for it. I know I like usually around 18, and as you can see what it's doing to the photo, it is really making this thing pop. On this one, I'm going to actually go a little higher. That looks pretty good right there. Vibrance. Vibrance, what that does, it adjusts your colors, and all it does, it doesn't adjust anything that's saturated. It only adjusts the unsaturated colors. So it's kind of nice because if you start saturating anything that's saturated, you're going to get that false looking photo in that. So I'm going to take my vibrance up. And this one, I usually like to go right around 20, 21. So, and how do I know that? That's just from experience. Sometimes after I say if I had that set on my preset, I would tweak it afterwards. So that looks pretty good. We'll leave it there. Now I'm going to go back to the gradient filter. Up here you have other filters. This is a healing filter, spot filter, where you can take out unwanted objects. This is a red eye filter. The rectangular shaped one is the gradient filter. This is a radiant filter. I'm going to explain more of these later on, and also this brush. Right now I'm going to go into the gradient filter. And what this here does, I'll demonstrate. It's probably a lot easiest. I'm going to grab here and I'm going to pull down. And this, the width of those bands, you see 3 lines. One is the midpoint of there, and the top one is the upper part and lower part. What that is describing is the upper part is where all the changes I'm about to put in will take effect. Below that, we'll leave it alone. And in between, it kind of gradually changes it so it's not so defined, so you can't notice it as easy. So I'm going to drop this down, probably about there. And it's going to come up with anything I left before. There's many ways that you can use this here effect. I'm going to go to highlights, because I want to drop down my highlights. And as you can see, the highlights is already at -20, and that really dropped it down nice. And you can slide this back and forth until you really get what you want. Or up, if you go positive, you're going to lose a little bit. So I slide it down. I like it in there. Let's drop down a bit more. Get some of that Jesus rays, as someone calls them. I like that right there. Now, I'll show you what you got to notice. It's kind of making the clouds a little moody. If you don't like that too much, you may just want to bump up the shadows just a little bit, so it doesn't have that real high contrast in there. And I can tell you the hardest thing to remember on this is which direction it's actually going to apply. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll take my exposure all the way down and say, oh, okay, now I know what side it's working on. You can see what side it's working on. To reset my exposure, I'm going to just double click on exposure. That clears it out the setting. It's pretty good.
Steve, can you apply multiple gradients to the image, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm about to do another one right now. So I like this one here. I'm going to keep that one. I'm going to hit new for a new edit. And if you see, it still came back to the same one that was on here before. A lot of times I don't go to these effects. I don't usually pick this because I know what I want. I might do iris enhance or soften skin, but most of the time I know what I want to change, and I don't even pick the preset. I just come in and say, okay, this one here, I'll do it. I'm going to do my, I'm going to drop this down so you can see which way I'm going. What I want to do here is I want to raise my shadows in this area. So I'm going to take my gradient, I'm going to create my gradient. And like I said, I set my exposure way down so you can see where it's actually taking effect. You can see how that gradient works, where it's really dark on the lower half here, then it gets gradually lighter and unchanged up in this area. Reset my exposure, and I'm going to reset everything else. Now I'm going to take my shadows and I'm going to raise them up. And you can see it's raising them up nicely. Now I'm just going to find a point that I go, yeah, that looks pretty good. But I might want to bump up the highlights a little bit too, so I'm just going to take a little bit of my exposure and just bump that up too far. Just subtle. And I'm going to call that good. So that's my second gradient on this. If you ever want to come back, I just close up my gradient by clicking on it. There's also ways of closing it out. You can hit close down here. And if you say, hey, did this really help my photo? You can, there's an on-off toggle right here. And you'll see that on other edits also. You can toggle what those changes, those gradients have done. And you can see it pretty good. So I'm going to turn that off. Now this photo here, for our purposes, I'm going to say is pretty good. I'm going to leave it. It's not a award-winning or anything like that. So now that I'm done editing, I'm just going to give it a snapshot. You know, I think we're going to have to skip over some of my images here. I'm going to skip over Mary's image here. Actually, let's do Mary's image real quick here. This is going to be real fast. All I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the real fast. I already know what I did to edit this photo. I'm going to leave my presets in here. And I'm going to show you how to do that. No, but actually, I'll show you how to do that right now. I'm going to jump around. I already know that my presets, I really like it around 20-ish. And if you can't get the number you like, just go over there and you type it in. And my vibrance, I know I like it usually around 19. Oops, 19, that's not. It's still said 19. And, oh, I completely missed this section here. I know that most of my photos, when I edit, I went to the tone curve. And I'm going to do it again. You notice that the basic closes for me. I did that because I was editing on a small little screen. Otherwise, you got to scroll and find it all the time. So there's a setting within Lightroom that makes it, if you jump to a different section, it automatically closes. Trust me, that helps if you don't have it set up that way. Point curve, I know most of the time when I edit, it's going to be medium contrast. Detail, I didn't get into this, and I'm probably not going to get into it a lot tonight, but this is for sharpening, noise reduction. This is mostly that. Usually I like to take mine up to about 60-ish for sharpening. And masking, I just put a little bit of mask on there. And I can show you exactly what mask is, and I'll do that right now, because I don't think we're going to have time to get into it later. If you hit down the Option key, and you click on this button, it turns everything to white. And what this is doing, it's masking the photo for applying whatever you are sharpening. Because if you had noise in the photo, you don't want to sharpen noise. So as you drag this, with the Option key still being held, you can see that the white areas are decreasing. And that white area is what's getting sharpened. If you bring it all the way back to beginning here, that means it's sharpening everything. I don't like sharpening everything. I just usually sharpen a little bit of it. Noise reduction. At 50 ISO, I'm not going to need any noise reduction, but I usually set my preset to right around 37. One of the things that I should have discussed before that I forgot to is lens corrections. I clicked on lens corrections here, and this here will automatically correct for a lens if it's in their catalog. Unfortunately, Lightroom 6 is not supporting new lenses anymore. And if you have chromatic aberrations, this is where it minimizes it. You click on that button, and I like to enable lens profile. And this one doesn't recognize because it's for some reason it's in the list. And when I click on camera on here, it's going to pick out a lens, but it picks out the wrong one. So what I do is I set a preset to automatically. I'm going over to my left-hand side here. There's presets here. I'll show you on that. Presets here, and I'm going to click on my 70 to 200. Oh, you know what? I don't want to do that. I'm going to. Okay. Well, anyhow, I only create. I didn't want to do that. So those are what I normally do on every photo. And what I do then is I'm going to go to user presets here on the lower left-hand corner. And okay, I got to make my screen a little bit bigger. Where is it? Oh, it's up here. There's a plus symbol up here under presets. I hit that plus, and I'm going to create a user one. I'm just going to call it junk because I'm not going to save this one. And under here, you have a whole bunch of items that you can select for this preset of anything. And what this is of anything that you have done in this photo here. I'm not going to take the basic, the white balance. Actually, the tone curve I want to keep. Clarity and sharpening I'm going to keep. The treatment color I'm going to turn off. Split toning, and I don't want any graduate. I don't want any of this stuff here. I do want noise reduction. I'm going to apply that to everything. And this is just a preset I set up here. You can customize whatever you want. Lens corrections I want. Transform I'm going to turn off. And effects I'm going to turn off. And calibration I'm going to leave in there too. So what this does is I'm going to create a preset. And if I reset this now, and I come back over to here to my presets that I just created and hit it again, it is going to bring on all the changes that I did before. Yeah, getting back to editing this photo, I apologize, guys. I'm going on a tangent here. I know this is getting long. I'm just going to bump up the shadows. I'm going to drop down the highlights a little bit. Bump up the shadows all the way I got it. So I might bump up the exposure a little bit, not a lot. And I'm going to set my white points, and I'm going to do it the quick way. Shift and double click on the whites. Shift and double click on the blacks. And originally when I did this photo, I increased the clarity, reduced the highlights of the water, and I did a graduated filter here to reduce the sharpness. I'm just going to show you real quick on a graduated filter because that's a good tool to have. I left that black and the exposure down where I wanted it before. Had it before. So I'm just going to reset everything. And quickly to reset everything all at once, all I got to do is double click up there on the effects. In the empty space next to the effects, that reset everything. Now in this area here, I'm just doing the lower left-hand corner. I'm going to just drop the exposure down just a little bit to darken it up, to give it a little less attention. I'm going to drop down the highlights a little bit more. To me, it was too bright. That's the reason why I'm doing this. And I'm going to take the clarity, I'm going to drop the clarity down just to give it a little less focus. And take my sharpness, and I want that to be blurry. So I'm going to blur it out. And take a look what that did. I'm going to toggle it on and off. It helps improve the focus on Mary and not the rock. The other thing I did with this, I'm going to turn that off, is I cropped it. Because this is really blown out here. I want to just get that water in there, and so I don't cut off her butt, but some of it on there. I kept this rock here originally in, but it ended up being kind of neat. But I played with the water and made that a little bit more of a focus. And you got to give Mary credit. She was so busy reading her story on her phone that she sat still for 2.5 seconds, and she didn't even know I was taking the photo. So, let's see, where are we at? Okay, I'm going to go over this photo here. I'm going to double click on it. Now, when I double click on it, I'm actually still in the library. And you still have all the, I'm going to show you something that's in the library here too. I'm going to show you it because I never use it. It's underneath quick development. You can take tone control, and this will adjust automatically your whites, blacks. Actually, I don't think it does whites and blacks. It'll take the highlights, shadows, If you click on the autotone, it, man, actually that's pretty good. Usually it doesn't do that good. Let's see what it did. Let's go to develop module. It does do the whites and blacks. Okay, so I did the whites and blacks, but didn't do the highlights and the shadows. And also did exposure and up contrast. You know, this usually doesn't work this good. Usually I'll use that button to test to see if I really want to keep a photo, and usually undo it right away. This on the other hand worked pretty good, so let's keep it. A little bright, I'm going to bring down the highlights a little bit. And I don't want to go too much deep into this photo. What I do want to show you is the radial filter on this here. And the radial filter, I'm going to click on the radial filter. Again, it got the exposure way down because I remember from last time. What I want to do is I want to set the focus on this group of trees right here. And I'm going to click somewhere in the middle here, and I'm going to just bring out the radial filter. Everything went black because of my preset of exposure being way down. Now that's not quite where I want it. I want it a little bit bigger. You can grab the quadrants and pull it apart a bit. And I want to notice it came off the screen. Well, I want to make it taller too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the center dot right here, and I'm going to pull that down so I can get my quadrant, and now I got it taller. I'm going to recenter. And what I'm trying to do is I am trying to darken everything else. I want to focus on these trees. So I'm going to reset my effects by double clicking up here just to the right of effect. It's a blank space, so it's not intuitive. And I'm going to bring down my shadow, or bring down my exposure. And just darken it a little bit. And I drop down the highlights. And I'm just going to bring down the sharpness too. I want that concentration on that center piece. And see what that did? It's a little bit more focused in there. It's not exactly what I want. But we're going to get. I'll take it a little bit further. Let's correct the white balance. I already know that this is first thing in the morning. And a lot of times when it doesn't have sunrise on here, you notice. But if you pick daylight or cloudy, it's usually pretty darn close. And that's way off. Actually, the temperature is probably correct. I'm going to just drop down the magenta. It was pretty, well, that's too far. There's a little lag. It was pretty warm, but it wasn't quite that warm. Let's go about there. And I'm going to drop down the exposure a little bit more. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get that center, that piece in the middle, to be the focal point. And another thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the gradient filter. I love gradient filters. And what I want to do is I want to reset my filter. I want to raise my highlights in the bottom here, below the line there. I'm going to raise it up so it's a little bit more brighter because it's not quite as bright as above it. And I'm just going to darken shadows. Give it a little bit of contrast. In fact, let's add a little contrast to it. That looks pretty good. And the stuff here on the left is kind of garbage to me. It's not what I really wanted in the photo. I kind of want this area in here. So let's crop it out. And if you notice when you first go into a crop in Lightroom, you start grabbing the corners. That's how you can size it. You can grab this here, you can size it this way. Or like I said, with south side, you can straighten out that horizon, which is probably driving some people nuts. But say you want to do a different aspect ratio. It's not intuitive again because there's nothing there. You go just to the right of aspect and you click on that. You have options of the standard aspect ratios. And I already know that I want this to be a 1:1. That's what I had before. And I'm going to center it over those trees. And I'm actually going to bring this back up more. And I put those trees in the middle. And that's kind of what I was shooting for when I first did this. And now my angle is off a little bit. So we're going to, you guys, I remember the critique. That's what got me last time from my horizon not being straight. This is not bad. It's still not quite what I was hoping for. I'm going to drop down the highlights a little bit more. And I didn't really have a lot of good subject here. Let's go back to the radial filter.
Dave, does Lightroom have a remove color cast function?
Yeah, but there is color cast. Well, not specifically. You have to do it manually. The color cast that's in here right now is more like the way it was that morning. It was sunrise. It was near sunrise, so it was you got that golden hour effect, and that's kind of what it was at that time frame. And I'm going to, in this radial filter too, by the way, this feather, and say you want to affect the other side of the line, just hit invert mask, and it applies the effects to the other side instead of the side that you're working on. I'm going to actually increase the feathering here so it's a little bit more smoother. And I'm going to drop this down. It's nicer, but the photo that I really like best is when I converted it to black and white. And to convert it to black and white, all I do is click on black and white here, and you can retweak these here and say, okay, you want to keep this color version, but you don't really, but you want to try other things. You want to keep this as is. If you right click on the image, there is a create virtual copy. And what that does, it creates a virtual copy so you can do another set of edits on it and not have to go back. It's kind of nice because you can try different things and just get rid of the virtual copies you don't like. Otherwise, you can also get the virtual copy underneath photo and create virtual copy. And there's also a shortcut key, which I did not know about. And that would be on Mac, Command apostrophe, or on a PC, I believe that would be Control apostrophe. I'm going to create a virtual copy. And now it says copy one up here. Now I'm going to convert that to black and white just by hitting black and white. And I want to bring down that exposure even more. It's not quite the image I had before, but it's going to be close enough because I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm just trying to demonstrate process here. Notice when you put in black and white, your vibrance went away and your saturation went away because, well, there is no color in black and white. So, okay, let's go back to the library, and I'm going to hit G for grid. So basically, these photos are done for now. I can rate them or whatever. I'm just going to leave them alone for now. So I'm going to import the rest of the photos. I'm going to click on import, and I am going to go to where I have them stored. And that's on my drive here. Lightroom presentation. Notice what I mean by a chip here. Oh, you know what? By doing this here, it's including subfolders. That's the reason why they're all coming in. Notice the ones that I have deleted before. Oh wait, no, they're not, because they're gone. Never mind. But anyhow, these are duplicate here, the ones that are grayed out duplicate. So this is actually perfect to demonstrate the duplicate. I'm just going to import these in. Okay, that is the file that Travis gave me. I'm just going to hit OK. That one's not going to work for us. Let me check to see where I'm at here. Okay, multiple editing photos. Oh yeah, this is a good tip here. I might have to skip some of the stuff here because I'm gonna decrease my thumbnail so you can see the whole set. These photos here in the middle and this one here I took for a panoramic, and this is a good way to show you how to synchronize settings among a whole bunch of photos that are all the same. And I'm going to click on the first one here. I'm going to hit D for develop, bring into develop module. And as you can see, it already applied my presets that I mentioned. Vibrance is actually plus 10, not plus 19. And you'll see that it already applied my lens corrections. And I don't know why I didn't pick the lens for this one, but I should have. I'm going to just hit camera on here. Because when you're doing a panoramic, it's important to get your lens corrections in there, because what it does, it corrects distortion, and if you try and do a panoramic with distortion, it makes it a little bit pain sometimes. Okay, so my that is set. I'm going to go back up to basic. I already know I'm going to want to bump up the exposure a little bit. I want to drop down the highlights. I love that detail in the clouds. I exposed purposely for the so I didn't blow it out in the clouds. I actually dropped the highlights all the way down. I may want to drop down the exposure just a little bit and actually bump up the shadows instead. This is all probably going to change a little bit when I set my whites and blacks. I'm going to do it the quick way: shift, double click on whites, hit shift, double click on blacks, and then set my white and black points. For all purposes, this photo I'm going to say is good enough right now. I go to the next photo. By the way, you can toggle to your next photo by hitting your arrow keys, or you can toggle. Well, going back to grid is kind of a pain, but if you open up your film strip down here, I'm going to hit this little. I'm going to show you what I'm hitting. There's a little arrow key here, and this opens up your film strip. And this is the whole pictures, all the pictures in that catalog that you're currently working on. And you can see all the photos here. So if I want to say, let's use the arrow key first. I'm on this photo. This photo is edited. If I hit the arrow key, it's going to bring up the next photo. This one's not done. There's a shortcut. Say if you had two photos back to back, and you want the same edits, you can come over here to previous, and you click on previous, and it is going to give the same settings as previous photo. Now you got to be careful, because if you do any spot healing or gradient filters or any other kind of filters, it's going to do it all. So it's indiscriminate. It's just going to copy everything you did on that first photo and apply it to this next photo. But hey, we have like 7 photos here. So you click on the first one and hit shift and click on the last one of that panel. You highlight them all. Notice previous went away, but you can hit sync. You hit sync, it's going to give you a pop-up window, and it is going to give you an option of what you want to apply. And you can clear them up by hitting check none, or you can hit check all. And this one here, I want them all applied. They're all the same. So, or you can indiscriminately toggle them, by the way. I want them all applied. I'm going to hit synchronize. And that is going to adjust all your photos, just that quick. So let's go back to grid. I'm gonna show you how to create a panel real quick. These are still highlighted in the grid in the library module. To create a panel, you can go up to photo and photo merge, and you can hit panel. Or you can right click on your ones that are highlighted, and then go to photo merge and select panel. I'm not going to select the one that I had 98 photos for. The one takes 25 minutes, I think I said. This might take a little longer too. If it takes too long, I'm just going to stop. This shouldn't be too bad. Gives me a chance to get a drink. Usually, by the way, guys, I drink wine when I photo edit. I'm trying to keep my wits about me tonight, so but it makes the editing go by a lot better. Okay, on panoramic, you have 3 choices. What style you have? Spherical. It's good. I know it's not going to work too well with this one. I must not like it because it's not letting me do it. Perspective. You know, I must not like those patterns because the zoom is slowing it down so much. I auto crop. This is what it looks like before crops. I usually just leave auto crop on, and I'm going to hit merge. Let me take a drink for that. Okay, as that's creating, let me talk a little bit about the panoramic. If you're starting off with raw files, the file that it creates is another raw file. So any of the edits that you can do to the single, you can do to the final. So in reality, I did not have to edit all these photos before I created panoramic. The one thing that was important is that you set your camera correction on, your camera lens correction, so that it knows that so it blends better. Now, if you notice, I'm going to scroll up and down. Oh, it did put it in there. Like sometimes if it's not in there, go to all photos. Because a lot of times it's not actually part of the collection for the previous import. Here is our panoramic. And I'm going to double click on it. And if you want to see what it looks like in full screen, after it renders here, here's another shortcut. And it's kind of nice to admire your work. You hit F, the full screen, and it gives you the whole screen on your computer so you can see your photo. Turn it off, you just hit F again, or hit G for grid. Now, I want to show you in the develop module something else that I like looking at. I'll show you that later. We got eating. Okay. Spot brush. Okay. Let's go. I'm going to show you the healing brush real quick. And I'm going to bring in a photo. I'm not going to process it at all other than, let's put it good, other than the taking out the object. This photo here, this is from Eve of Devastation at the Golden Sands Park. And there's an E for develop. This wire here is just, it's just pain, man. There was a crash, which they don't like to advertise that there was a crash, and it destroyed the wall a little bit of where I was hiding behind, so I was no longer safe there, so I had to go somewhere else, and of course it was an obstructed view, but at least I was safe. This wire here, it's several ways, there's a good way of removing this. Now, Lightroom is probably not the best for taking out something like this, but you can do it. You're going to be better off probably taking it into Photoshop. You'd probably do a better job. But Lightroom doesn't do too bad a job. This here button here is your spot removal button. And I'm going to show you where you're at if you can't find it. It's a spot removal. And I just noticed that there's a shortcut Q. If you ever want to do a shortcut for it. I didn't realize that. And spot removal, it's good for taking out objects. I'm going to zoom in here. By the way, if you're in a tool like this and you want to zoom in, you hit the space bar. It's going to take that tool off momentarily and give you a magnifying glass. It allows you to zoom in. There's an object right here that I want to take off then. If I click on it, it's going to find a close match and get rid of it. Right now I'm in heal. What heal means is it's going to kind of blend the two items together and decide the best way to get rid of them. Now in clone, I'm going to switch it to clone. It does change it a little bit. You don't always get the best result by cloning. And you got to kind of go back and forth sometimes to see which one's actually better. Now that got rid of this object, but what about this long object? There's a neat trick that I learned. You click on this spot here, it's going to find another spot to fill it in, but we don't want that spot. It doesn't matter right now. We're going to ignore. Here, I'm going to shut this so we can see what's going down. We're going to ignore this here where it's picking that data from anyhow. I'm going to come up here. I'm not going to do the whole thing because of time. I'm going to hold down the shift button, the shift key, and I am going to click up here on the cable again. And notice what the computer does. It's taking a straight line. And if you don't like what it picked, because I can see right there, you can move this around and pick something else. Oh yeah, this is spot healing is memory hog and Lightroom, by the way. There we go. It's going to take something like that. You can actually do that for that whole line. You got to be a little bit careful on here. I'll do this here. I'm going to show you something else here. I'm going to pick this right here. And I'm going to come down here. Notice how it keeps, it's losing your spot brush. That's because it's interfering with this other spot here, or the other edit. Hit H, that's going to hide those edits. So you can get around it and select again. I'm going to do that line again, shift, and left click. And it's going to pick the line and edit it out. It's not quite level. I don't like that, but we can fix that here by moving it. Hit H again to bring back your edits. Oh, wow, I brought it way over there. And say you want to look at that, but you don't want to zoom out. You can hit that space bar again, and you got that hand. You can actually move it over, or you can actually use it to zoom out. I'm going to grab this edit. I'm going to bring it over here. Excuse me, the dog just came home. And I'm going to just kind of line it up if if the leg doesn't kill me first. Right there. Okay, it moved a little bit. But you saw it's close. That's going to be close enough for its purpose. You get the idea. You can remove that whole cable out of there so it's not even there. And I'm going to turn off the brush now. And you can see if you did that whole line, it would come out pretty nice. Now, I might be able to get this all in one edit now. I did this in small edits here because of different textures in this here. If I try to do this as one piece, it hiccups. It doesn't work out good. So it takes smaller segments. Now, if I do this again here, it might actually take out most of it. And let's see what we get. That ain't bad. I can live with that. I can move this down a little bit here. This here, so it's even. Maybe not. Or out. Okay, the leg is going to kill us on this. With running zoom in the background, but you get the idea. You can move them around. so that it's a good edit, and that it actually ended up pretty good. And for the last part, let's make life easier. We're just going to crop it out. So I went to the crop tool, hit crop, center my photo where I like it, and good enough. Car side, got the cars running out of the screen. I wouldn't normally set that up. Now, say, okay, this wasn't cutting it. I want to edit this photo in Lightroom, or not Lightroom, and say Photoshop. I'm just going to show you the path. I'm not actually going to edit because we don't have that kind of time. What you can do is you can go up to Photo, Edit in, and edit in Adobe Photoshop Elements Editor. Or you could, if you have Luminar, you can do it in Luminar. Or if you have Photoshop straight up, you can do it in Photoshop. And what that does, oh, did I dare do this? We'll try it. What that does is, it's going to take my edit, so that's fine. And normally I undo what I did. What that does, it's going to create a TIFF file, and you tell it what kind of compression you want. Now in the new software on the online version, I believe you can get 16 bits. I can't because Photoshop Elements only allows 8 bits, so we're only going to do 8 bits. I'm going to hit edit, and it's going to automatically open up Photoshop Elements. And okay, it's usually faster than this. Again, I'm not going to show you. Let's pretend we did the edit. I'm going to hit File, Save. Save. Okay, well, because I didn't do anything, it's already there. I'm just going to quit Photoshop Elements. And notice what it did here. I'm going to go back to Grid. See, actually, this file right here. This file here is a TIFF. This is the TIFF file that I just created in Photoshop Elements. So by bringing it, taking it, or doing the edit through Lightroom, what it does is when you come back to Lightroom after you're done editing it in Photoshop, it'll automatically put it in your catalog. So it's already there, and you actually got both copies there. You have the original right here. I went to G, by the way, to the library module for the grid. You have the original and you have your editor. So it's a really nice tool. They actually try to edit it from Lightroom if you want it in your catalog. If you edit it outside, you actually have to, outside the catalog or outside of Lightroom, and you want to bring it in, you actually have to import it in. So, and also what this does is you go back to that file, because I didn't change anything, but if you did change something, you go back to that file and you can re-edit it from where you left off. It's still knows all your edits, unless if you compressed it. Okay. Did I lose a bunch of people? Okay, so that's the pathway to Photoshop Elements. Exporting. I'm just going to give you a brief description of exporting. Then we're going to go into you guys' edits, which, let's see what time is it? So we're an hour and a half into it. Okay. This here photo, we processed it already. It's a pretty quick, easy one. I want to export it. If you click on it, you have to do this in the library module. I think yes, you can still do it in a loop. This is called a loop view for the library module. To get there, all I did is double click on the image. Here, I'm going to make my screen bigger by closing this down again. Because I have a nice big screen, but I'm pretty sure that not everybody else does. To edit it or to export this, click on the export button. Now I'm going to briefly explain this. I'm not going to actually do it. You have your destination is right here of where you want to pick it, or where you want to put it. You can rename the file if you like. Usually I don't. Video, this isn't a video. You can actually limit your sizes here. Now this is going to be important, say, if you're importing it in for club review, because we don't like the files over 3 meg. That's why that's already checked there, I guess. Image sizing. A lot of times when you have an image and you have to send it in for something, they might say, okay, 2100 pixels on the long edge. You can do that real easy in Lightroom. Click on resize. Right now I have this set at 900. That's because I sent it out to social media. You just click on 1200 pixels, and right now I have it on long edge. And you have different choices too here. You even have width and height, which is going to be helpful for when we send in our PSA photos, but you guys don't have to worry about that. Okay. By the way, Marty, I got an answer from whoever she was again.
Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie. If you want to strip the information out of it from your metadata, you can. I usually keep mine in. It's kind of nice. You see a photo out there later on in life that, hey, did I take that? And you can actually, if the metadata is in there, you can actually find out. Because in that metadata is your copyright information, the person, the author, if you put it in there to begin with. All the shutter speeds, the focal, and everything else. All that nice stuff that is in metadata here. Oops. I'll come back to this part. All the stuff that's in metadata here, most of it comes through. There are programs or apps that can access this information if it's not showing up. Because a lot of times, if it's here, it's still in that file. You may not be able to get to it without an app. Back to export. So image resizing, output sharpening. If it's social media or computer screen, I leave it on screen. But otherwise, your choices are matte paper and glossy paper. You do that for printing, of course. Okay, I already said metadata. Watermarking. If you want to watermark your images, you can click on the watermark and just click on the, I'm just going to show you the one I got for Golden Sands. Oh, that'll work. That's what I was thinking. And since Golden Sands was up in there, you can type in your information here. And you got places to put it, how big you want it, what size proportionate wise you want for the image. You can change your color, you can change your font. It's something that I just played with to figure out what I wanted, what looked good and that, and because I don't know all these fonts. You can actually even use a graphic. If you have a graphic, and a lot of people use a graphic and put it in there. You can put a graphic in there. Okay, I'm just going to cancel out of all this. I'm not going to actually export this. Okay, time to edit someone else's photos other than mine. About time, right, guys? All right, we did not get a lot of photos. You know, let's get rid of, actually, I'll leave these in here. Let's start with Marty's. Okay, I'm going to click on Marty's photo here. I'm going to go to the Develop module. Now, the downfall of having presets is it doesn't know that it was a JPEG on this. So it applied my presets already to Marty's photos. And in a way, some of my preset is actually converting of what a JPEG actually is created from. So I'm actually going to clear out my edit by resetting the photo. And this is starting completely from scratch. How would I edit this? Right now, I do it the same manner. I come to the exposure. I'm probably going to drop down the exposure just a little bit. And this is all subjective. it's an all matter of interpretation. It's you know, it's many different ways of editing this. And I'm sure my photos, I already know my photos not going to match Party's. He included one that was edited by Luminar. And I can tell the software is Luminar because it's in the metadata. I am going to set the white points. Now, when you're setting the white points, okay, notice it dropped it all the way down. That means that we actually lost some data on this. When you're setting the white points on a JPEG, you're not going to get the full capability of
Steve,
finding a white point.
can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Don.
Okay, my pictures have been going fine. All of a sudden they went off, and I have a black screen with Carolyn and Amy's head and shoulders. I mean, I can't see them. It's just all black and white. You have any suggestion? I mean, I can't see the pictures like I was looking at. It's just
You're on a phone, aren't you, Don?
say again.
You're on a phone, aren't you?
I'm on the phone.
Yeah, you know, I've never used this program on a phone, so I would suggest just go ahead and leave the meeting and then join the meeting again.
Okay.
That takes care of it. I'll let you back in.
Don, if you want me to cover anything later on, what you missed, I can do that at one-on-one. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on.
Yes, go ahead. Just continue. I'll fiddle.
Okay, thank you. Now, if I come up to this histogram, you can see that this right line over here, I don't know if you guys can see where I'm pointing. I'll decrease the size right here. So you have some white or some data that's pretty thin. That means the higher up there is, the more data you actually got there, or more amount in the photo. This is a pretty thin line, so I know that there's probably only a few spots that's blown out. If I go up to the triangle again, it's going to show the blown out highlights in red, and you can see where it marked it in red on the screen. Those points there, I'm not going to be able to recover that data. That data is going to stay white. So let's. So the best thing to do for this then is now if you go back to the way I was doing the white points before by hitting the option and holding down that button, you can see what's being blown out. And I might not have to set my white point all the way down that low. I'm going to gradually bring this up because you know that if it can't be rescued, you might as well just make the best out of the photo. Okay, right there, as you can see now, I'm starting to bring in more. So I'm going to back that off so that more kind of disappears and just leave what we got. Right there is probably a good point for white points. If you notice, by bringing up the white points, I might actually even want to decrease exposure a little bit more. But I gotta be careful here because the bowl is actually, I can see the detail in it, but I'm going to just drop down the highlights. And that looks pretty good about there. The shadows, yeah, you might want to bring up the shadows just a little bit just to see a little bit more detail in that bowl. Probably about there. I like a little bit more contrast. I'm going to go back to my tone curve and I'm going to play with those settings. Medium contrast. I like that, but notice what it did to the bowl. It dropped down the shadows again. So if you like the overall picture, you might have to come back and bump up the shadows. I actually kind of like the strong shadows, strong contrast. But let's leave it at the strong contrast. Let's go back to our basics. So this is kind of an iterative process. One of the things that I keep forgetting about is I have a preset all the time and I only change it when I need to, is my presence. I like my clarity up a little bit higher. You can see what it's doing to the photo. It's really giving a little bit more pop to the detail. And the vibrance, I like bringing up the colors a little bit, but nothing that was saturated. That looks pretty good. That's making this photo pop a little bit better. Lens corrections, I'm not gonna be able to do that with this camera because, or with this shot because it isn't JPEG. Actually, I should say that. I might be able to do it. All right, 10, 22 millimeter. Nope, no, it didn't pick out the right lens. So evidently, though, you probably could use it. If it recognized your lens, Marty, you probably could use it.
And when you brought up even that lens, it made a distinct change to the picture.
Yeah, it brought up a lens, but it's a 10 to 22 millimeter lens.
So you
So
that's the only one to bring up. It won't bring up any other lenses in the list. So
that's the list. Well, that's true. It could be in there, but I don't see 100 to 400 in here.
And again, for your version of Lightroom, it might be old enough that this particular lens wasn't out yet.
How old is your lens?
It's only a couple years old, so it's
A couple years it'll be. Yeah, it won't be on this. They haven't been supporting Lightroom 6 for a couple of years now. And like I said, I'm too cheap to pay the subscription.
me too.
So I'm going to turn off enable. But that's what that does, though. That's what I also mean is if you have a panoramic, say with a distorted lens, it might be harder to merge the photos. So I usually like to correct this. One thing I like to do on my panoramics is to correct that distortion before I do the panoramic. If you guys recall my photo that I put in there on Facebook, the dark vertical lines that I came up with the 98 photos. Those dark vertical lines is because I did not have a profile for my lens. I could not correct it. And that's what's occurring is it's giving a vignetting. As you can see in this correction here, you can see vignetting down here. And you can correct for the lens. Now I can set up a custom profile for that lens, but I need to know what settings to do. I guess there are ways of doing it. I haven't figured it out yet. Okay, so let's get back to this photo. Another thing I didn't talk about is camera calibration. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Time. Okay, so to me, this photo is actually looking a lot better already. After setting those up, I still have a little too much highlights, I think, in the cap. So I'm going to drop this down just a little bit. Now, actually, now you can see some of the distortion that I'm getting from the detail that was lost. So I'm going to bring those highlights back up. Because I'd rather have the highlights high than pulling out the distortion. Looking at the faces back here and the hands, it's not bad, but let's just see what happens with bringing up the shadows. Wait for the leg. It's pretty good. I want to call that pretty decent. I think if you really wanted to, let's just do a quick go up to our brush. I'm going to reset the effects. I'm going to take my shadows and I'm going to bump them up. And I am just going to paint the bowl, man. Just paint the bowl. And I'm going to stay away from, well, it doesn't matter if I spill over into the highlights, because it's only really affecting the shadows. I can use my scroll button on my mouse to resize my brush, and I can even get the legs a little bit. And if you have something that, say, I don't want to spill over to the fence, you can turn on auto mask. I would not use it in the middle here where you want everything, and I would use it on the edges. And
So, Steve, this tool is working similar to dodging and burning then?
Well, I have actually anything in here to play with. I can play with my exposure.
Right.
Obviously, that ain't going to work too well. I can play with the contrast. I can even play with the temperature of it, turn them yellow.
It's only doing with what you brushed in right now. It's
Correct.
Only in that area, right?
Right.
You created a mask.
Well, yeah, in a sense, it's a mask. It's just it's a paintbrush that's only affecting the areas that I brushed it in. It's if you did this in Photoshop, I'm trying to create a mask around it. You can do it, but it's pretty time consuming painting it. I think light edits. This is what I consider light edit. It's still. I think it's easier doing Lightroom, but that's personal choice. I'm gonna just bump up the exposure just a touch on that bowl, and just to get a little detail. Just a touch. It's really tough to do because there's a fine line of making them too much detail and because there's not a lot of detail in that black bowl anyhow.
Anytime if you're shooting a black bull, black dog, a black horse, whatever, black animals are very, very tough to work with.
Now, I do notice you have a little catch light in the eye. I'm going to create a new mask, and this is crazy because people call this pixel peeping, and I'm going to show up here my navigator. If I want to view this photo one-to-one, I click on this one-to-one here. I'm going to show you what I just clicked on, one-to-one, with my navigator in the upper left-hand corner. And I'm going to hit the space bar again. I'm going to move the picture over. The other thing I could have done is I could actually move it up in here. But I usually close this out because to me this is wasted valuable space for editing. And so I usually close it out. The only time I open it up is when I get to these here. Because I can use, there's a different shortcut I could use. I'll demonstrate that right now. I'm going to close this out. So I wanted it even bigger yet. Well, I don't know if this will actually work this way. Command, Shift, Command, Plus. It does work. Okay, I just learned something new. So if you used Shift to turn off the brush, Control on a PC, and what would be the plus symbol, you can zoom in even further. And I'm going to turn off the brush.
On the other phone.
Man, negative.
I found it now. I couldn't get it on the big computer. It said error. And I got it on.
Well, we can see you now, Don. Hey, Don, this is also being recorded, so if it's something that you want to watch later on a big screen and that, you can easily do that. We'll set up a link for it.
Now that I muted him, he's going to have to unmute himself.
Oh, okay.
There, he's got it. Okay.
So here's that catch light right in that eye. I am going to pixel peep. I'm going to do it the easier way because I'm not that talented on. By the way, what I did here, this is now set. Actually, if I right click on this, I'll show you can change this. You got auto hide and show, auto hide, manual, and sync with opposite panel. Well, I don't want to sync with the opposite panel. I put mine on auto hide and show. And if I want to keep it up, I just click on it. So when I want, say I'm working over here, and I want to get to that navigation window that usually pops up here, I come up here and just hover over that triangle and go up to that navigation window. And I'm going to switch to 4:1. And we are going to pixel peep. Space bar, bring that down. And the only reason why I'm doing this is I want that catch light a little bit bigger. I'm going to hit my healing brush, or not my healing brush, my magic wand. Oh, I turned it off. I had it already on. I'm going to hit that. I'm going to raise up my shadows. I'm going to take the highlights. I'm going to bring them all the way up. I want to make that catch light a little bit bigger. Now all I'm going to do is hover on it. And this is the reason why I pixel peeping. I don't want it obvious that I did this. I want it so that it looks natural. So I'm just going to take it right over a spot and give it a click. And let's see what we got here by turning off our brush. Maybe a little bit more. I'm going to click on it. Let's make the size a bit bigger. And I'm going to just, oh, I can't change it. Oh, I'll make it a little bit bigger around here then. If you get an edit and you don't like it, at this stage here, when it's highlighted like that, if you hit delete, it's gone. So we're going to make our, I made my edit a little bit bigger size. And I'm just going to hit it again. Let's see what we got. It's subtle, but it's bigger. Let's see if I can. This does have a mask. So we can turn it on and off. Now, the bowl got darker because my shadow increased before. And I got a little bit brighter here. And of course, it's showing the edit. We'll leave it. Trust me, I think it's, let's see what it looks like here. I'm going to hit, all I got to do is, after I close up my magic wand, I have my hand on, I can move it around, or I can just click on the screen, and it's going to drop it back down to one of your previous zooms. And this happens, this is full screen, which is good. As you notice, it did increase that catch light just a little bit. The one thing I find a little distracting are these lights back here. And we're going to go back to the heel brush, our heel tool, and I'm going to resize my tool just big enough. By the way, what you're seeing here, I'm going to make this bigger. What you're seeing here is two rings. The inside ring is what's being edited completely, and the outside ring is the feathering part that the feathers out. Now, if I go over here and watch my tool when I increase my, oh, no, it's small. The feathering is small. Notice what's happening. The inner ring is shrinking as I'm increasing my feathering. Usually I keep this right around 50. I did not realize it was that high, or that low, I mean. And what that does is it blends it in a little bit better. I'm just going to click on it. It's going to find another spot. Take this one down here, find another spot. It's a little smaller, so I'm going to use my scroll on my mouse to make my adjustment smaller, and hit that one, and let's move this one because we pick that forest part up there. Just whoop, you know, and increase the delete. That's what I mean. Sometimes if it misbehaves, just delete it. Easier than trying to fix it. And turn that off. And those lights are gone just like that. As for cropping, I probably wouldn't crop this photo. You do have a little bit of light up in here. You might want to darken this area here a little bit. As for color balance, we could probably try to color balance this. It's a little bit tougher since we have a lot of artificial lights and you don't know what is exactly white or black. We can pick this here, see what it does. Obviously, I turned that green. Don't like that. Oh, I should probably explain what I did here. For color balance, you got this eyedropper here. And then, like I said earlier, if you find a spot that's either preferably a gray. If you had 50-50 gray, that'd be perfect. Life is not that easy. And I'm sure these hats are not going to be gray. Plus, they're also in the light. This sign on the back of his back is probably white, but it's in the light, so it's going to be artificial light. Well, let's try it. See what happens there. The eyedropper, and so you get in here. You can't easily pick your spot. Again, if you hit that space bar, you can zoom in. It doesn't stay there. How do I get that? Well, put the eyedropper back, zoom in, and try it that way. And let's go back out. Helps if I click on my picture. Actually, I think it did pretty good for color balance. That looks pretty good. If you don't like it, say you want to warm things up, you can always tweak your temperature by bringing it up a little bit more. That looks kind of cool. And it's closer to Marty's. So, you want to increase your contrast, you can do it here now as a separate control from the tone control. Or you can just tweak it anywhere else. Marty, you see anything else you want me to try to tweak?
It's your photo to work with.
if I was editing this photo for my part, oh, what I probably would do is actually, I talked a little bit briefly about this, is lens or is detail. I see this is at 16,000 ISO. And remember I talked about sharpening before. I usually like to sharpen my picture, but if you look up in here, when I start sharpening noise, see what it does? It just makes it much more pronounced. So I don't want to sharpen noise. I want to mask this. I want to denoise it first, a noise reduction first. Now, there's a lot of third-party apps out there, or side apps, whatever you want to call it. We got the word for it for Lightroom. That is very good at denoising. Denoise is one of them, actually. I usually don't use them. I've tried a couple, and with limited success. For the most part, I just use this here noise reduction here. See what it's doing? It's kind of smoothing out that noise. And I usually bring it to a point that looks pretty good. Without going overboard. It's kind of subjective. You gotta zoom in for this. That's why they give you this preview window here, but I usually zoom in on something like this. Detail is good for if you have something like feathers, it helps feathers. Actually, that's the detail up here on sharpening, excuse me. This is one thing that, I'm sorry, I never could figure out what you could do, but that, to me, it didn't really seem to affect the image that much.
Well, but you're usually not shooting at such high ISOs that you really need to ever really worry about it, you know, like I am.
That is correct. Now, as for sharpening, as you can see, that's moved out a lot of noise. And let's,
But the other thing it also did is it softened up the bowl and the rider quite a bit.
yes, it will. And I'm going to sharpen up the image now. And you got to be careful with this too, because it's,
But could you?
I'm pixel peeking, guys. This is not 1:1. That's 4:1. That's why it looks that awful. Oh, yeah, that's better. That's 1:1.
Could you also, though, Steve, once you do that, could you go? Is there a way for you to go back in and brush that off, just off the bowl and the rider?
Oh, really easy.
Okay.
Let me reduce the noise reduction because you do have to look at the faces and that, but it's not bad.
Right.
I'm just going to go back to basic here. I'm just wondering if I can get some of that back by bumping up my clarity. And I could. Yeah, a little bit back from bumping up clarity. Say what Mari suggested, and taking that brush off. I can go back to that brush, click on that brush, and this is the edit that we did on the eye. I wouldn't change that, but say you want to change that bowl. By the way, if you hover over that mark, you'll notice it turns red. That is what you actually edited on that. There's a shortcut on that, so you don't have to order it or hover over it to switch a mark. Say you want to work on that and you want to fill in everything. You want to be very, very tight and specific. If you hit O, that turns on the overlay mask. And if you click O again, it turns it off. There's another way of doing that. You'll see this down here in this lower left-hand corner. Show selected area, mask overlay. And click on that. Now also turn it on. So now if I say, hey, I missed that, I could fill this in. You know, you can do that. Turn it off, and you click on that or hit O. Now say you don't want it at all. You say that didn't work at all. You can either change it to works or just get rid of it by hitting delete. And I'm going to actually hit Command Z because I am going to actually just reduce it a little bit here on what I added to. Probably about there. Basically, I essentially got rid of exposure.
And since you're still in that masking, so to speak, you can actually take your clarity there, and it's only going to increase the clarity just on the bowl and the rider at this point.
That is correct. Well, I didn't highlight the rider. I did most of the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I can increase clarity there.
Okay.
All right, let's but it does not have anything for that
It does have, you can take your noise down there, that noise filter down there too. From
I will be honest, I never played with it. I think that's more or less for adding noise.
But if you go to negative, it should, from that mask, because you're in that masking part now, it should take that noise filter that you put on the whole picture out of that mask. Well, it's going to be really hard to tell, but
Yeah, it's see, I never played with the noise. See, you got the noise back in there by taking this down. I think what I'm doing is I'm having noise back, but I'm not 100% sure. I really don't know.
okay.
Let's that's one thing. Like I said, I got more to learn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any of these programs, we're always learning with them. There's no doubt about that.
So if you ever want to, after you're done editing, you go, oh God, I wonder what this thing looked like to begin with. I wish I knew. There's a shortcut that gives you a before and after, and that's the Y key. Press Y, it gives you a before and after, eventually, and that is the before and after of the edits. And you can see exactly what's changed, and then it won't, if you crop it, it's just only going to give you the crop part of the image. It won't give you the whole image. Get out of that, hit Y again.
You backed up one, you can show them what I did in Luminar, although I noticed that when it came over, it really accentuated that dirt.
let's do this, but I'm going to reset my image because remember I have my presets on. Reset it, and this is the way how it came through from yours.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's the way how you sent it or if Luminar applied a little bit more to it than that.
No, it just seemed like the dirt is a little bit more orange than I had thought I had sent, but regardless.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of, it could be a difference in, well, it can't be a difference in monitors if you're looking on your own monitor. I thought it was pretty orange.
Yeah, yeah, it looks on my screen right now it does, but if I was to bring up my copy on my screen, I don't think it was. But anyway, regardless. But one of the things that I did on here is I really purposely softened up the background, including the people in the back, to bring more attention to the writer.
Yeah, yeah, and there's actually, I can do that actually. That's a good thing to show you guys. Let's go back to develop, because I'm just going to do a radial filter, and this is why I like radial filters. I'm going to go radial filter.
Remember, you're on my copy, not yours.
No problem. I hit the arrow button, but I couldn't move. But I'm going to go back to radio filter. Thank you, Marty. And I'm going to create one. It's over the rider and over the bowl. Out there, I'm not going to be too fussy.
Right.
And I want to see, okay, which side am I affecting? Because the invert, what does invert really mean? Okay, I am affecting the outside. Again, if you invert, affecting the inside, turn that off, affecting the outside. Okay, reset the exposure. I'm going to reset everything just to the right of that effect. Double click. And I'm going to just, like you said, bring the attention more to the writer. I like to drop down the just a little bit. Sometimes it's a little fuzzy. A little bit. Very subtle, the exposure around that area. And the other thing I'm going to take is I'm going to take the clarity. I'm going to drop that down. Now you don't want to go too far because it'll make things look a little funky sometimes. And you got to watch the faces. That's one of the things that could affect. And the other thing you can drop down is the sharpness. And I like to drop that down quite a bit, but you gotta be careful with that too, because you don't want, say, oh man, you know, no one's in focus, you know.
You don't want to look like Odo, but
Yeah.
you know.
But this is a good way of doing that. And I've even taken sometimes where you desaturate the outside and just a
Yeah.
touch just to bring that
Yeah.
bring that in there. And if you want to see how that looks, I'm just gonna hit new, so we're get rid of our circle. And if you turn it on and off, you can see how that changed the picture. It is very subtle, but it has darkened everything but the rider and that. And you know, being that you got good motion blur on that bulb, this may not be the best photo to apply that to, but there's other applications that work out really well. Okay, let's go back to our grid, and we're going to work on the next photo. We got to be running close to time here. Okay, 8:30. I was anticipating going to 9 o'clock, but I'm willing to go longer if anybody else is willing. This photo here's mine. This is mine. Let's go to, I believe this is Lori's, I believe. Let's go to this photo here. I'm going to double click. I am still in the library module. This is a JPEG, so I am again limited to what I can do. It's not a lot different being in JPEG versus RAW, but it's sometimes enough. First thing I'm going to do is go back to the basic develop, hit D for develop to get into the develop module. And I'm going to reset this again, because again, it came through my presets. And this is the way how it came through. In reality, my presets actually probably helped. So maybe I want to apply them back on, because it did look better. And the presets I use is this one right there. I want to bring up the shadows a little bit and tone down the highlights. If you look up here, you can see that I do have clipping, and it's on all the branches behind and all that, and so a little bit on the antlers. I'm going to start with the highlights. I'm going to bring down the highlights a little bit. I can't go very much because the data is lost on some of those spots. I'm going to bring up the shadows. I want to get that face in a little bit better. Actually, I might just bring up the exposure. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I'm going to set the white points. I'm going to hit the shift, double click on white. Might drop it down too far. So it's one of those things where probably better off holding down the option key, clicking on the button, and seeing what exactly you are changing. And stopping before it changes too much. I probably would leave it right there. The blacks, let's double click on the blacks. Shift, double click. That's going to set the black point. Okay, that's probably almost too dark, but it really made the foliage look a lot better. So let's just try raising the shadows up some more. Not quite. So let's raise up the exposure a little bit more. That's pretty, I'm going to call that good, because for the idea, you guys get the idea of what we're looking for. My tone curve is already set to medium. Contrast, let's see what strong looks like. I actually like strong in this case. I like a lot of contrast, what can I say?
You know, Steve, I wonder, because you're used to using RAW files, I wonder on these JPEGs if strong just isn't a better solution right off the bat.
It's not really changing the resolution at all. It's just changing the darker pixels to darker, and it's actually changing the contrast more or less.
Right,
I
but it,
believe it's actually changing the resolution at all.
no, I,
Of course, I think you don't have power in your little camper.
Bruce, yeah.
He's a little dark. He's in the dark there. One of the things that I find distracting, and I'm going to zoom in on the eye there, is that eyelash. Actually, we're going to bring this in. We're going to pixel peep 4:1 because 1:1's not cutting it. I lost him. Let's just. I got to wait for my computer to catch up. Oh yeah, there you go. This eyelash has a highlight. We're just going to get rid of that. No, there's not a lot of detail. This is, like I said, that looks a lot better. I don't know why I turned black, but that's fine with me. It's just not as distracting. There's not a lot of detail in this because it is a JPEG and I'm not, it's not a full strength file. But to get an idea of how to process it is still not bad. Let's crop this image. Oh, I'm still in. Did I miss? I must have missed. Let's crop this image. I'm going to bring down the edges here. And what I'm trying to do is just get tall enough for the animal. And I'm going to bring it over this way here. And that's actually pretty good. His head is right in the rule of thirds. As you can see, there's little crosshairs coming across here. That places the head right in the rule of thirds. And let's take that. One of the things I find a little bit distracting is a lot of things are brighter than the deer itself. So this is a good spot possibly for doing that radial filter. So I'm clicking on the radial filter. Oh boy, did I just cut me there. And we're not going to do a whole animal because I'm just going to make it. And I'm going to turn this off up here. This is distracting. If you click on this, it'll highlight what's blown out. It'll stay that way. So if you ever find it, hey, what's this red on my screen? Our blue for the blacks. Go up there and just turn that off. I had a couple times where I said, what the heck is this? I'm going to reset my radial filter. And I'm going to tone down the exposure everywhere else, especially in the foliage over here because that is kind of bright. I can't go too far because, like I said before, I have blown out details in there. And you'll get artifacts in there by blowing them out too far. Just tone down the highlights a bit more. Do we have Lori on the session tonight? No, I don't think we do.
Yeah, we're both here.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm glad I didn't say anything real bad.
Well, this is the third device I'm using now, but I've got it.
Okay, well, good timing here. By doing that radial filter, I'm darkening my edges. I'm giving it kind of a vignette, but a lot more controlled than, say, if you did it in your effects down here. I didn't discuss this at all, but you got post-crop and vignetting here. You could actually apply a vignette down here, but you get a little bit better control with the radial filter. And, if it's a light vignette, I might use this, but most of the time, I will use radial filter to get this kind of effect. Now, the head is kind of still in the shadows. I'm not going to focus too much on this because we've covered it many times here. I'm just going to maybe bring up the exposure a little bit and bring up the shadows a little bit and just paint the head.
Steve, Stu made a comment here. He says, besides Lightroom enhancements, perhaps the image would be better flipped horizontally. So, we could try.
Oh, yeah, I can actually do that. I can show you that in a little bit here. Let's finish up the image and we can. I'll do a virtual copy and can flip it. Now, basically, on this one here, I think this is about all the edit. I did practice rounds on each of these photos. And I guarantee none of them look the same as I did in the practice round. But this here is pretty close to where I had it, I believe. Does anybody see anything that they would want to tweak other than flipping? Oh, flip it. I'm going to create a virtual copy, right click.
Well, now this device just stopped.
Yeah, right, done.
Okay,
Good.
There we go.
back on.
Okay, we're going to create a virtual copy. And we're going to flip this copy. That way we can actually see. Okay, virtual copy 1 created. I'm going to go up to photo. And it is flip horizontally or flip vertically. And I'll admit I get it right half the time.
Yeah, flip horizontal work. Yep.
All right. So flipping horizontally. And that's what it looks like flipping horizontally. Now let's go.
Amy wants to see it in black and white now.
We'll do that in a bit here. Now, say, all right, did that really improve the image or not? Well, there's a way we can do this. Let's turn on our film strip back on down here. Oh, not that button. That button. I am going to select both photos. Okay, there's a little leg. And I'm going to hit C. C for compare. And what it's going to do is going to compare those two images I just selected. And I'm going to close these out. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to close down these windows so that we got a little bit bigger screen for everybody. Okay. Now you can look at them both and say, okay, does it help or does it diminish?
Where's the original?
I really don't know.
Which was the
I almost think it diminishes. I like it better
was the original?
originally, but that's
Yeah,
my opinion.
My thought is because Amy says she likes the first one better too, but my thought is, you know, he's looking in from the left, and since we read right to left, it
Yeah.
seems like a more natural flow to me. But Stu's right. I mean, it doesn't hurt to play with that aspect and just to see.
Right, and this is good. Leads into a good tool that we do have here is the compare tool. To get out of that, hit C again. You can actually select or deselect those images, and it's I don't play with that because to me it gets kind of messy. I screwed up too many times when I tried that. Okay, so you want to try this in black and white. Let's go back to develop module, D for develop. And I'm just going to click on black and white here. And we can play with a bunch of buttons here, but why don't I introduce you to some of the presets? Now that I just turned on the module over here, there's a lot of black and white presets in Lightroom. I usually don't use them. I usually get the way how I want it. In color, convert it to black and white, then convert it to black and white in a virtual copy. Then I tweak with it in that copy. But in here, you can try different filters, high contrast, green filter. I don't really know a lot about these. Red high contrast filter, kind of like that maybe. Yellow filter. But, and Lightroom also has these other presets here. Black and white contrast high. Might have to bump up the shadows. Contrast low. Black and white look 1. So far, I think I like that one the best, personally. It's a little too dark. Oh, I added a lot of green. Wow. But as you can see, there's a lot of different presets. You can try them out and see what they look like. Now, when you say you get a look, you can always tweak the image. little bit more just to over here. After hitting preset, you might want to pump it up a little bit, or maybe increase the contrast even more. That doesn't look too bad. Let's just push more. Like I said, I like high contrast. And if that's not quite what you want, you can come to the tone curve. Remember I said that you can play with these buttons here? You can also turn that to strong contrast. Say you want to even drop your whites down even more. The right-hand side of the tone curve is your light colors, or lights here, highlights. You can pull that down and see what it's doing to the highlights. You can see it. You can actually see what it's doing to the histogram up here. Just taking that and pulling that down. And you know, your midtones, you can move that up and down. And you can really get creative this way, but I will admit I'm not the most fluent in this method. And your blacks, you know, say you really want those midtones to come down, you might even move that more over this way, but that really arcing up a lot. But you see, you get the picture. You can play with it quite a bit. And all these changes are non-destructive. You can always undo it. Say you did a whole bunch of stuff and you want to go back in history, you can do that. I'm going to turn presets off here, close that window out. Here's your history. You can go all the way back to anything really that's in this history. All the way back to import. But the thing is, if you go back to a point, and you start changing stuff. Say,
If Steve,
here.
Steve,
You start changing stuff, you just wiped out all your other history.
so you can't go back to like that last current state, like where you had it black and white?
I can, but only
have-
by hitting Control Z. Say you close out of this and that,
Yeah.
you lock it. I hit Control Z. I undid the brush stroke, and I got my history back.
So Stu was wondering if you went to the HSL panel, and if you played with the sliders there, the hue, saturation, and levels there, it actually does quite a bit for black and white tonality, and that's true.
Okay, well, let's go back to, I think what was the black and white one I liked. Let's go back to that because I kind of messed it up with a lot of. Actually, I think I like it. It's strong contrast. Okay, so the HSL. Obviously, color's not going to do much. Oh, actually, it does. What the hell?
Well, it does though.
Oh, that's probably from the black and white.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize it did that.
Yeah, when you work with hue, saturations, and levels, your reds, your whites, your blues, your greens. So, you know, back in the old film days, we had all those color filters to put in front of our lens to increase contrast by different degrees, and now you do it here.
Well, I think what it's doing is, since I didn't mess with it before, it's actually coming from the presets, from the black and white presets.
Oh yeah, I'm sure some of that is correct.
So this is what it's actually doing to the photo. If you look at it, not a lot really.
Oh, and it was a subtle change to it, but here using these though, you can actually really pop back out.
How far back do you want me to go before I tried any of the presets?
I would say right when you converted it to black and white.
Okay, that'd be this point right here.
So
It still has it on there. Oh
yeah, they are,
because it automatically.
Right, it's still going to have them because that's where it's starting at. But now, like if you took, you know, one at a time, just played with the red up and down, just to see what the red does to affect the photo. And again, there's always that latency here, you know.
Yep.
And try like.
I can be able to decide what is good and what is bad, because this is a little out of my realm.
Yeah. So I mean, how much contrast you really want it to pop. And this is one way to get more contrast. I mean, the thing about Lightroom and Photoshop and a lot of these programs is there's 6 ways to do all this stuff.
Right. Right. And a lot of times when I convert to black and white, I just usually play with the contrast, get what I wanted, and that's about it.
So Stu,
The image behind me is actually a color photo.
Stu just said, well, yeah, most black and white, most are converted. Stu said, go with the green because there's so much green in this picture that's going to change the green tones quite a bit. See, they're getting lighter, and if you go the other way, they're getting darker. And then that deer stands out better because you just took a lot of that green toning, and you know it's kind of like desaturating it almost.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good idea. You can see if I bring it down further, like right in here, from pointing at here.
Yeah.
Probably from clipping.
Right. Well, yeah. There's still a lot of highlights in there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why Lori didn't put a big scrum up or something like that to get rid of those highlights.
Yeah. How come you didn't use a light umbrella on this?
I don't know if they heard us or not. Lori, we're picking on you, Lori.
Okay.
Heard ya.
Let's Lori, is there anything you want to see more in this image?
No.
Okay, well, let's go on to the next one here. This is Sylvia's.
Thank you very much for the comments.
Yep.
Oh, no problem.
Fun picture.
Lori, this bug is yours too, right?
Yes.
What?
That's your picture.
I see.
Okay.
Of course.
Let me talk a little bit about this. Lightroom is not really a miracle worker when it comes to out of focus pictures.
You
But
said
I don't
you
know
were.
what it is, but I really like this photo, even though it's blurry.
It has a nostalgic look to it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, this, I just
like
put in
this
this.
photo.
I just wondered if you could take a terrible picture and do anything. This was in at Wild Rose last Saturday.
Well, I figured it was recent because it was shot with the Samsung phone. I look at this, okay, is this from a real camera? Is this a scan or what is this? I mean, I really like this shot. I mean, the thing is, it's out of focus. You have horrible highlights being blown out. And I mean a lot. Let's actually, let me go back and reset it to the original. I gotta go right here. Okay. You have horrible highlights blown out, and I'm going to show you how much. A lot.
A lot.
But look at this photo, and you just keep studying it, and you just wondering. It to me, it's just breaks all the rules. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little off base. I don't know. Is Stuart still here? Otherwise, he would be a good one to comment on this. But no, I can't really do much with this. I can increase the contrast and all that. I cannot rescue anything up here on top of the hood. I can't even make that red without painting it and really doing a lot of work.
Send it to me. I'll fix it in Luminar then.
But I have to say, I sat here and I looked at this photo trying to figure it out. So if anything, you accomplished one thing. You got people intrigued. It's the nostalgia. And if you had all the detail in there, people are going to see that it's not an old photo. So in a way, that adds to it. All right. Well, enough said on that one. There's not a lot I can do about it. Sorry about it, but I still wanted to comment on it. Okay, let's go to Sylvia's. I have a feeling we lost a few people. I apologize, guys. This is.
Oh, actually, I've only really lost 2, I think.
Sylvia and Stu.
Travis left. No, Stu's still with us. Sylvia and Travis, I think, are the only ones.
Not on my screen.
I don't know. Amy says, I'm actually here.
Well, I see.
Stu
I don't,
says 26 people left, but we never had 26. We never had 36 people on here, 35 people.
okay, well, anyhow. Sorry about that. Let's work on this photo here. Okay, this is another photo that kind of intrigued me. And just kind of wondered why was it selected to be brought in here. But I think it's a good one to go through. And again, I'm going to reset because I brought in my presets. But right away, I can tell you that I actually like my presets, even with the JPEG. So let's go back to, we're in develop. I'm going to go back to my presets. And I'm going to hit my all camera standard medium tone preset. So one thing I know I'm going to need to do is probably bump up the shadows a little bit. These highlights are really bright. I'm going to drop down the highlights. And I don't want to bring up the shadows too much. Actually, I don't even want to drop down the highlights that much. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do another radial filter. I love radial filters. It is going to be a long, whoops, I didn't start in the middle. No problem. Oh, it doesn't match with my twig. I can rotate it just by clipping on the side, rotating it. I want it a little wider because I don't want to reduce my highlights on these sticks. And again, this is a matter of interpretation. You know, it's suddenly you might have had something completely different in mind. Reset I'll go back in this toolbar area, and I'm going to drop down the exposure just, actually, see what it does here. I don't want to drop down the exposure. I want to drop down the highlights. And you notice I got clipping again. As you can see, the detail rating here is lost, and the detail rating here is lost. So I don't want to drop down the highlights that much. I still want that sunspot there, but I don't want it so that's obvious that the details are lost.
Steve, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. So I think Stu is going to go, but he was actually on as focal point. So he was worried that if he goes out, it might drop us all. So if we all do drop, that's why log back in and we'll.
Because you're the host.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we're going to be good. But I told him if he goes out, you know, so if he goes out and everybody does, I'll go back in and we'll get it restarted again real quick here.
Sounds good. Thank you, Stu.
Okay.
Okay, so let's, I brought down the highlights quite a bit. And I'm just going to bring down the clarity just a little bit, soften that up. Let's go right there. I'm going to turn off my radial filter. Probably see where I'm going with this. And again, I don't know if this is what Sylvia had in mind. I'm gonna set my white balance. Not my white balance. You know, I keep forgetting white balance, and that's where my weakness is white balance. I'm gonna set my whites. I'm just gonna bring them up until I know I got clipping, so I'm trying to find the point where it really starts adding a lot. You know what, that spot did not clip. Oh, that's because I got the exposure down. Or the highlights. What? I'm not sure why I didn't clip, but we're going to leave that. Well, let's, okay, I set my whites. I'm going to set my blacks. And blacks we're just going to do the easy way. Double click on blacks. Shift, double click. Looks like it didn't have to go far, -1. I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to knock down the highlights just a little bit here. Let's see if we can do that. Reset. Drop down the highlights. I know that it's gonna, That doesn't look too bad. And down here too. Right.
So I see that kind of works like in Photoshop when you do dodging and burning. If you, especially with the highlights where they turn just slightly gray, that's something you have to watch. Yeah.
Let's crop this image because that's the part that I think what attracted Sylvia in the first place to this image. And I'm going to crop it down a little bit. And what I got here, and I don't know. Okay. And I think what attracted Sylvia in the first place is the angles. You got the angle here, the angle here, and it's thick. But she's not on here to confirm that. Before I do this, I'm not going to crop it quite yet. I'm going to hit reset the crop. I want it, this is going to be right in the corner of the photo. I don't know if you realize that in the crop. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take the healing brush, not the magic brush, and I am going to make a big correction on this ear spot. I'm going to try it, see what it does. That's not bad, but it's picking the same spot that I did there. So I'm going to drop this down a little bit. And I'll be careful because I don't want to lick in too much the stain. That's horrible. Look better up here. But you're getting the idea what I'm doing, I hope. Yeah, see, that lost detail up there. Let's put on deeper.
And I think that latency kind of, I don't know how it looks on your actual computer, but on the screen here, you can see it slowly come in. And I think that it's hard to judge what's happening because of that. But
I'm moving the where it's sampling.
oh no, I get that, Steve, but because of the way that it's hard to tell exactly what the good spot is because there's like this jittering, so to speak. It's just
Yeah, that's what's going on my side too.
okay.
What it did, it dimmed down that corner. Let's try this. I had it actually better when I did it on my own. Let's go back to the crop. We're going to recrop this image the way how I was kind of envisioning. And hopefully Sylvia picked this image because of this. And we're going to pull this over a little bit. See how I darkened down that edge. And I'm going to just hit this brush. I'm going to do a brush detail here. I found the highest. I might be bringing in artifacts by doing this. Oh, that's too dark. Hey, no, I can pull that off. There we go. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to knock down the highlights over here. Maybe get these two bright spots out of there. Let's do the spots first. So I want, if you didn't see what I did, I went up to the heel brush and just going to click on that. Two spots. Try to find, where did it go? Got the opacity down. I'm going to go opacity to 100. Got rid of it. Let's get rid of that blue spot too. So I'm just going to make it bigger and shift this up.
This would be another really good candidate to go black and white with too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right. Due to the leg, it's being kind of uncooperative. So let's go with that. I got rid of the high spots there, and now I'm going to take the brush I'm not gonna mess with exposure. I'm gonna knock down the highlights just in this area here. Just so that they don't attract as much. And basically when I did the edit, that's about what I ended up with. I did take the highlight brush again too, kind of think of it. And just got the upper part here. And I'm thinking that's what Sylvia was looking at. I'm not 100% sure, but so there's some nice repetitive angles. More of an abstract than anything. If you crop out the trees a little bit more, but getting too close to that, it might be more of an abstract. Black and white. I think that is stunning as black and white. That's a good suggestion. And you know, it's. I will admit, it's not something I would ever photograph, but I like it. Okay, anything else? Anybody want to see anything else in this image? Okay, let's go back to the main screen here, or to the grid. Well, I know it's after 9. Time boss was just here. Okay, I processed all the images. It's up to you guys if you want to do a question and answer session, or if you want to do a question and answer session right now, and I can do a process one of my images to show you how I've made some of these other images pop. Or what you want to do. Before I get into questions and answers, resources. I didn't have any classes that teach me how to do this. What I did is I used YouTube. YouTube is a good friend. And I'm pretty sure that there's still a lot of YouTube videos out there. Seems like once they're out there, they're out there forever. But even for Lightroom 6. I learned by watching Anthony Morganti on YouTube videos. If you want, I can show you real quick here. Sorry. What's on my favorites? Oh, I just did the upgrade to, I don't even know all this stuff is anymore. Okay, so YouTube, I gotta type it in. I like that. I just upgraded my Safari, so that's why it's not there. Anthony Morganti, right here, 5 years ago. And his videos are pretty good. And if you have, say, the Lightroom CC, he also covers those. You also do Photoshop. He's done other softwares too. And I found that a lot of his videos are pretty good, very helpful. There are, let's see, I'm looking for tips. What's my tips? What kind of his? Anyhow, he also does these quick tips episodes that are really nice. He's got an alien skin. I never used that before. But anyhow, Capture One, he does. He's a really good source. I used him and I used other videos. I think Laura Shu or something like that. I used some of her videos. So basically, I used a lot of YouTube. Nothing, no professional coursework.
Steve, since you're talking about YouTube, be a good time to mention for the people that are still on here. I think that's what we're gonna try to post our videos from these on a private channel on YouTube with a link from the club website on the members only page. So
Thank
yeah.
you for pointing that out. You asked me to upload the video to our iCloud account, and I did.
Okay.
I created a folder out there that says Zoom meeting recordings or something, Zoom recordings or something like that.
Good. Okay, then we can send this one there, and then I can get them in over into YouTube and create my links from there. That'll be pretty cool. So.
Okay, awesome. And that way everybody's got access. Do you have to have a password to get in then?
Well, it'll be not into the video itself because it'll be a private page, and the only place you're going to find the link is from our club members only page.
Okay,
We'll
that'd be a good thing. We'll put this video on there too if we didn't.
Yeah, we'll do both of them, and then we'll just ask the members not share that link outside of our group. It's that simple. If that's
Sounds great to me.
we're done doing it.
I mean, I look pretty good in this hat, but still, you know, I don't want my face on that. Okay, questions and answers.
What is the meaning of life?
Wine.
Haploid Butyl Brocket's 42, but that's a whole different thing.
Well, if anybody's interested, I will process one of my photos. If you want to get going, I'm not going to take offense. I mean, officially, the presentation's over. But if you want to stick around, and what I'm going to process is this photo here. And hi, Alistair.
Steve. I'm gonna. Who's your friend? I'm gonna stop the recording so that we're not so big again. I mean.
Yes, and say, well, at least now we got a place where to put it.
Right.
Because the iCloud has storage limit of 5 gigs, and we weren't even close to it. So.
Right.
All right. I'm going to